We're here with Jesse Talton. He owns an ice cream truck, and he believes that he was pulled over by law enforcement in a bad way. Jesse, what happened?
I was selling ice cream on Tuesday around 3:15 in Waterstone, which is a local neighborhood here in Fort Mill. I was passed on the road. I pulled over because a vehicle was coming up behind me, and so I pulled over, waved them past me. They pulled down into a cul-de-sac, turned around, and stopped their vehicle. I approached the vehicle. As I did, two men stepped out, plain street clothes, no badge. They had guns on their hip. They approached my truck. I stopped the vehicle, assuming that they were wanting to buy ice cream. They immediately asked me to please stop the vehicle and, can they, They asked me how I was doing today. I said, fine, how can I help you? And they said, we need to see your license and registration. I said, may I see a badge or some form of identification? At which point they pull out a badge, stick it in my face, and it's got narcotics written across the front of it. I say, that's fine, that's all I needed to see. While I'm getting my license, may I ask you why you pulled me over? At which point they informed me that I had no license tag. In the past, I've called the York County Sheriff's Office to verify this, but it is state law here that my bill of sale and my proof of insurance that's properly located where it's visible on the back of the vehicle is my 45-day tag in the state. I don't have to go to the DMV and purchase one. I don't have to get one. I have 45 days with a bill of sale and proof of insurance to receive a tag. The officer told me that's not the case, and I repeated to him that I have already contacted the York County Sheriff prior to him, and they verified this. At which point, he snatches my license out of my hand. He does not radio anybody. He doesn't check my license, nothing. He simply states, did you know that your license was suspended? I said, no, officer, I did not. At this point, he walks away. He radios for somebody. I'm not sure, but I think I heard him ask for a radio for a dog or a canine unit. And about 3 minutes go by. He approaches my window again. He says, sir, I'm going to need you to put the vehicle in park and step out of the vehicle. I said, I'm perfectly comfortable in my vehicle because I'm not being detained. I'm not under arrest. And at this point, the second officer gets aggressive. He says, if you don't step out of the vehicle, I'm going to remove you from it. I said, just to be clear, I'm not being detained. I'm not under arrest. You have no probable cause to stop me, and you're telling me that if I do not step out of my vehicle, you're going to remove me by force. Is that correct? And he said, you're damn right it is. I told him, I said, okay, at this point, I'm going to comply with your orders. I said, is it okay if I start recording you? And they said, yes. As I go to step out of the vehicle, I turned my phone on. I walked out of the vehicle, got to the front of it, realized my vehicle's still running. I have a co-driver on the vehicle, so I started walking back to the vehicle and to tell him to turn it off, at which point the officer that said he was going to remove me from the vehicle started acting aggressive. And I told him, quote, chill bud, I'm not doing nothing. And I yelled at Mason to turn the truck off. He turned the truck off. I walked back to the first officer, at which point he grabs my wrist, tells me to put my hands behind my back, that I'm under arrest. I asked for what? He said driving under suspension. At this point he takes my phone out of my hands, cuts it off, and proceeds to frisk me. He calls another unit. It's an unmarked pickup truck. They come down the road, pick me up, stick me in it, and take me to Fort Mill Jail. This is not martial law. We still have rights as American citizens. And one of those rights is you have a Fourth Amendment right to not be stopped or detained. And they've violated that right. In this state, they have no probable cause to stop my vehicle without having a license plate. I have my bill of sale and my proof of registration, so I'm following the law and their order. I've contacted them previously to verify this before I even started driving the vehicle. And regardless of whether or not you turn the lights on or a siren on, if you approach me, show me a badge, snatch my license out of my hand, and tell me that you're going to remove me from my vehicle by force, then I don't feel free to leave at this point. This is not a willful encounter. This is you're commanding me using your police tactics to make me believe that I don't have rights as a citizen. And when I asserted those rights, you immediately took advantage of that situation and took me away to jail.
And